Hello, nice to see you on my channel, Hearts and Shadows. Enjoy watching.
My name is Walter, and one thing I've learned is that sometimes your gut speaks before your mind can make sense of anything. It doesn't come with proof or evidence, but if you're smart, you learn to listen to that feeling, because most of the time, it leads you to a truth you never knew. When my fiancée came home after her girls' night, I was waiting. She sensed the mood and tried to kiss me, but I didn't move. Instead, I brought out my phone and played a video for her. I watched as she froze and her face went pale. That reaction told me everything I needed to know. She didn't try to deny it, and she had no idea what I had already set in motion. If you had asked me just a few months ago, I would have told you I was the happiest man alive. I run a small but growing social media agency. It pays well, and it gives me a sense of control over my time. I mostly work remotely, except for the occasional face-to-face meetings with brands and clients, usually once or twice a week. I spend more time on Zoom calls than I care to admit, but it works for me. Charlotte and I had been together for 3 solid years. We were the kind of couple people would say looked good together in how we moved, how we talked, and how we had each other's backs. She's sharp and witty. I fell for her fast and deep. When I decided to propose, I genuinely believed she was the one. I spent weeks planning the proposal down to the detail. I booked this beachside resort because Charlotte once mentioned how sunsets near water made her feel peaceful. I had a custom ring made. I invited our close friends and family and pretended it was just a weekend getaway. When I dropped to one knee as the sun dipped below the ocean, she burst into tears. She said yes, wrapped her arms around me, and it felt like we were stepping into the next chapter of our life together. Now, I won't pretend we never had problems. Every couple does. We had our fair share of disagreements, but none of it ever felt like a deal breaker. We knew how to talk through things and figure it out like adults. I truly believe this was the strongest, most mature relationship I had ever been part of. Right after we got engaged, we moved in together. We had already been spending most nights at each other's places, rotating between our apartments. Now, she will be staying with me full-time. Everything about our life looked solid from the outside. And for a while, I believed it was on the inside too. When Charlotte and I moved in with me, I thought sharing a home would bring us even closer, help us prepare for marriage, get used to each other's routines, habits, quirks. But it didn't take long before I started noticing little things that just didn't sit right with me. It started with her group chats and FaceTime calls. Most times, she'd step into another room, but occasionally, I'd be around long enough to catch pieces of their conversations. This set of friends she spoke to frequently wasn't just catching up. They were bragging about sneaking around behind their partners' backs, lying to get out of responsibilities, and wild nights out where no one remembered how they got home. One of them even laughed about flirting with a married man at some rooftop bar, like it was some kind of achievement. It wasn't harmless fun, it was reckless, deceitful, just gross. I'm not a prude. I understand letting off steam, having your own life. But these weren't one-off stories, they were patterns, and worse, they seemed proud of it. I sat with that for a while, unsure how to bring it up, without sounding like I was trying to police her life. But eventually, I asked her, calmly, who those friends really were. I said I didn't feel comfortable with the way they talked and the kind of things they seemed to get into. I told her plainly that I was worried. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't trust them. I was concerned, and I thought, as her fiancé, I had the right to be. Her reaction caught me off guard. She said I was overstepping, that just because we were living together and planning to get married, didn't mean I could tell her who to talk to. She accused me of trying to control her, said I was judging people I didn't even know, and told me to stay out of her private conversations. There was no room for a conversation. No pause to ask why I felt that way or what specifically had bothered me. I didn't argue back. I let it go, at least on the surface. But inside, something shifted. I started to wonder how much of who she was had been shaped or was still being shaped by the people around her. And as the days passed and the wedding drew closer, that question lingered in the quiet moments. A small voice inside my head was asking me if I was seeing the real Charlotte or just the version she thought I wanted. We were just a few months away from the wedding. The date was set, the venue booked, deposits paid, and our families were neck-deep in preparation. On the surface, everything was moving forward. But underneath, something didn't feel right. Charlotte, my fiancée, started coming home late more often than usual. She always has some reason. The team had to stay back for a presentation, or traffic was insane on the bridge, or I stopped by Melissa's place to vent about the wedding stress. And for a while, I really did believe her. We were about to get married. I didn't want to start poking holes in the fabric we'd spent years weaving. But then one night, she walked through the door well past 10. I was on the couch, lights dimmed, dinner cold. She looked surprised to see me still up, like she'd expected me to be asleep or not care. She leaned in to kiss me, and that's when I caught the smell of alcohol. It hit me instantly. I pulled back slightly and asked, "Did you drink?" She blinked and gave a casual smile, saying it was just a couple of drinks with coworkers. Apparently, someone in her department had a birthday, and they all went out for one round. I didn't call her out immediately. Instead, I nodded and let her talk, but inside my stomach I didn't feel good about her randomness. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. If anything, it kept getting louder, and I didn't know whether I was waking up to the truth or slowly losing trust in the person I was supposed to spend my life with. One quiet Saturday evening, I walked into the bedroom and found Charlotte at the dresser, leaning close to the mirror, applying eyeliner. She looked effortlessly stunning. Her black dress hugged her in all the right places, and her hair was curled, loose, cascading over one shoulder. I leaned against the doorframe, trying to keep my voice light. "You heading out?" I asked. She didn't look up, just kept brushing mascara onto her lashes. "Girls' night," she said. I nodded slowly. "Who are you going with?" That's when she finally turned, like I'd asked something deeply offensive. "Why does it matter?" she snapped. "Do I need to get permission now?" Her tone hit me like a slap because I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't trying to control her, I just wanted to know. I cleared my throat, trying to explain without sounding paranoid. "It's not that. I've got a weird feeling about tonight. I don't know." She rolled her eyes and stood up, spraying perfume. "Walter, for God's sake. It's just a night out. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just want to blow off some steam before the wedding. Is that such a crime?" She sounded like I was the one being unreasonable for asking basic questions. Like I was trying to cage her instead of trying to understand where the woman I was supposed to marry had gone. I didn't push it any further. I knew that wall she built when she didn't want to be questioned. So I just nodded, even though every fiber of my body was screaming that something wasn't right. I stepped back, letting her have the space she so clearly wanted, and went down to the living room. I sat on the couch, listening to the sound of her heels moving down the stairs. She didn't kiss me goodbye. She didn't even really look at me. She waved over her shoulder and said, "I'll be back before you blink." I wanted to believe her. God knows I did. But some part of me already knew girls' nights out do not always end well. After scrolling through Instagram for hours and checking the time for the 10th time, I opened the Find My app. We had shared our locations for safety reasons back when things still felt simple. Her dot blinked at a lounge about 40 minutes away. It was some upscale spot I didn't even recognize. That was when the unease kicked in harder. Something told me I wouldn't be able to sleep without seeing things for myself. I threw on a button-up, grabbed my keys, and headed out. The whole drive was quiet. When I got there, the place was lit up with neon signs and thumping bass you could feel in your chest. People were coming and going, laughing, holding drinks, leaning into each other. I walked in and scanned the crowd until I spotted an empty seat near the edge of the room. From there, I could see the center of the lounge clearly, and that's when I saw her. Charlotte was at a round table, surrounded by 5 other women. They looked completely gone, glasses everywhere, shrieking with laughter, snapping selfies, and taking shots like water. Charlotte was right in the middle of it, all dolled up and glowing in that dim light. I'll be honest, she looked beautiful. Then the DJ switched up the track, dropping one of those viral songs that gets people hyped instantly. Everyone at the table screamed, like it was their anthem or something. Without hesitation, Charlotte and the others got up and moved to the dance floor. I sat there, watching from the shadows. The crowd swelled with energy, arms in the air, hips swaying, without rhythm or shame. At first, it looked innocent, just a bunch of girls letting loose. From where I sat, I saw a tall guy dancing his way toward her. I held my breath, expecting her to take a step back, maybe brush him off politely. But she didn't. She smiled, then turned, gave him her back, and let him grind against her like they were teenagers at a club. I watched as her friends clapped and laughed, shouting things like, "Yes, girl," and egging her on like it was some kind of performance. And she played right into it, moving her hips, letting him hold her waist. If someone walked into that lounge and saw them, they'd never guess she was taken. I looked at her fingers, and the engagement ring I gave her was not there. I just sat there. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew what I was seeing. I pulled out my phone and started recording. But the more I recorded, the worse it got. After a few songs, the guy leaned in and said something to her, and I watched her laugh, then nod. He threw his arm up and waved to one of the VIP bouncers, and like clockwork, Charlotte and her friends followed him to the rope. I didn't follow. I didn't want to see more. I left quietly and drove home. When I got in, I just collapsed onto the couch. The house felt colder as I sat there, replaying the moment over and over in my head. She came in just before midnight. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, just me and my thoughts, waiting. She froze for a moment when she saw me. I caught a faint whiff of the alcohol as she walked over, leaned in, and kissed me on the lips. But I didn't kiss her back. I kept my mouth closed. She pulled back slightly, her smile faltering. "I have something to show you," I said. I reached over to the coffee table and tapped my phone. The screen lit up. I hit play. She didn't say a word while the video played. Her lips parted slightly. The blood drained from her face, as if the truth was physically pulling color out of her. When the video ended, I turned the screen off and didn't say anything for a few seconds. "Go to sleep," I then said quietly, still not looking at her. "In the morning, pack your things." She blinked, confused at first, then she started crying. "Walter, please. Please listen. It wasn't what it looked like. We were just dancing, and yeah, we were in the VIP, but I swear nothing happened." I stood up and walked past her like she was someone I barely knew. "I'm not interested, Charlotte," I said. "We're done." The next morning, she tried again. She followed me into the kitchen. Her voice was raw from crying, and her face was puffy. She tried to hug me, to hold my hand, anything to stop what was happening. "We can fix this," she kept saying. "We've come so far. It was a mistake, a stupid night. I wasn't thinking." But that was the thing. She was thinking. She just wasn't thinking about me, but herself. When she left this house that evening, I told her clearly, the wedding was off. I was done giving energy to someone who couldn't even protect what we had for one night. Eventually, she called one of her friends, probably one of those who always encouraged her to act free. I watched through the window as they carried boxes and bags to the car. Charlotte moved slowly, like she was hoping I'd stop her at the last minute. But I didn't. I held the door open for them, said nothing, and when they were gone, I locked it behind me. As I eased into the peace of the house, I kept asking myself one question, over and over. Had Charlotte been like this the whole time? Was this just the first time she slipped up and got caught, or had I been blind for years? It's a terrible feeling, not knowing. And worse, realizing I'd probably never know. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Go hunting for every little clue, trying to rewrite the past? No. So I did something simple, but freeing. I turned off my phone and tossed it in a drawer. I knew messages would come. Maybe from her, maybe from her friends or even family, trying to spin the story, soften it, or push me to give her another chance. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want voices trying to shape how I should feel about what I already knew in my gut was unforgivable. That kiss she gave me when she got back from her so-called girls' night wasn't affectionate. It was a strategy, a cover. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the moment I had to accept that the future I'd been planning was all based on something that wasn't real. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't just rewind and go back to believing again. Looking back, I think my instincts had been whispering to me for a while, and for too long, I ignored those signs because I wanted to trust her.